Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that Winston Churchill once called our greatest weapon against the Nazis. Today, we're going to take a look at the Pathfinder adventure card game, Skull and Shackles, from Paizo Publishing. Pathfinder adventure card game, Skull and Shackles, is the second game in the series of the Pathfinder adventure card games. The original Pathfinder adventure card game, Rise of the Rune Lords, came out about a year ago, and now we've got the new Skull and Shackles edition. I believe the newest one is even out now. But in Skull and Shackles, essentially it plays in the same way as the first game did, in that it comes with a complete game in the core box, but it's also got several expansion packs that you can pick up that can further your adventures. Essentially, this game is billed as a role-playing game that is made of cards, so you don't have to have a DM. Everybody can take on the role of an adventurer. So the first thing you're going to do is each player is going to pick a character to play. And of course, you've got the typical tropes from the fantasy world. You've got, warriors, sorceresses, elves, what have you. You pick that character. They get like a token card. They also get cards with various stats and information on them. Now, what you're going to do is you have to decide how you want to play. Do you just want to do a basic one-off scenario? Do you want to do an adventure, which is kind of several scenarios that you play one after the other that kind of evolves? Or do you want to play the adventure path, which is kind of a grand campaign? Well, what you're going to do, as soon as you figure out what you're going to do, you're going to start with the basic scenario. The scenario is going to tell you, first and foremost, what locations are you going to set up. The location cards, then, that you bring out will tell you what types of cards you need to place randomly into those locations. What, may tell you may need a certain number of weapons, you may need a certain number of blessings, a certain number of spells, a certain number of barriers. You're going to have all these different kinds of cards mixed in there, along with evil henchmen, monsters, and of course, somewhere in one of those locations is going to be your villain. And really, the goal of the game is to find the villain. But you've only got about 30 turns to do it. You also set 30 blessing cards aside, and that's kind of your timer. The very first thing you do on your turn is you flip over one of these blessing cards, and as soon as that clock runs out, if you haven't found the villain, you haven't trapped him, you lose the game. So, over the course of your turn, what you're doing is exploring these locations. You can move to the different locations that are kind of set out in a very specific configuration. You can travel to those locations, and you can attempt to find the evil guy, but you're also trying to overcome various problems. You may meet some of these monsters that you're going to have to battle. You have various dice that come with the game, different sided dice. And the various monsters you're going to battle, or objects you can attempt to acquire, require you to pass certain skill checks with those dice. Now, your character is going to tell you exactly which dice you can roll under what circumstances. If you're testing combat, if you're testing intelligence, etc., 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 you're going to roll certain dice for certain characters. And then you can either defeat that monster if you roll well or not, and that may cause you problems. Each character also has their own deck of cards. And as you're playing these cards, you can gain certain advantages, but you got to be careful, because if ever you got to draw and you've run out of cards, your character's dead. So you got to watch that. It's a very interesting mechanic in that the very things that strengthen you, give you power to overcome your enemies, those are the very things that are going to cause you to die if you're not very careful. Now, as I say, as you're going through those locations, you're going to find a lot of interesting, fun, and unique items in addition to the characters. You're going to find blessings which grant you special powers, spells that let you do fun and interesting things, usually during combat. You might find new and powerful weapons that you can use, or you might even find my favorite card, the large chest. Because if there's one thing I love, it's large chests. But eventually you're playing through until you can find that bad guy. But you've also got to close the locations. Meaning, if you find the bad guy early in the game, like for instance if he's the top card in a deck, well, it's not just you fight him and you win the game, that would be too easy. He can actually secretly move to one of the other locations by taking a number of cards and then spreading them out, reshuffling the decks. So if you find him too early, it's not a good thing. So what you want to do is you go through the different locations, you got to fight to the end, and you can close the locations. And once it's closed, it means that the bad guy can't escape there. You then go to the different locations until you can trap him, and you can defeat him, and then the heroes win the game. Pathfinder Adventure Card Game is a very, very cool system. It really largely succeeds in creating that RPG feel without the DM. It does what it is advertised to do. It's also cool how characters can evolve from scenario to scenario along the adventures or throughout the adventure path, the grand campaign. Now, Pathfinder Adventure Card Game, Skull and Shackles, was designed by the great Mike Selinker, who, among other games, designed perennial discriminating gamer favorites Lords of Vegas and Betrayal and House of the Hill. Two fantastic games. If you haven't played them, seek them out. They are awesome. Well, this Pathfinder Adventure Card Game, Skull and Shackles, is very similar to the previous Pathfinder Adventure Card Game. Mechanically, very, very similar. There is, of course, the different theme. This has a naval theme. There's also a ship card you put out that has some advantages in it, too, that you can interact with. But generally, it's a very similar game. Theming is different, but mechanically very the same. The game itself is very fun once you get into it. But there's a level of complexity here that makes the game tough to learn. It's not incredibly hard to learn, but it's not a game you're going to want to play just for casual gaming. You can play those individual scenarios if you want, but honestly, I just don't think it's worth it. The Pathfinder Adventure Card Game Skull and Shackles is not a game you want to buy just for the occasional casual game. But it really succeeds in the campaigns, in the adventures, in the grand campaigns, when you can evolve your character, when you can gain those new cards, when your card decks get thicker and you've got more powers and more things you can do, then that's where the game succeeds, just like a role-playing game when you see your character succeed. That's really cool. If you're looking for casual gaming, Pathfinder Adventure Card Game Series is probably not for you. You may be better off getting one of the D&D games like Legend of Drazid, Wrath of Ashardalon, Castle Ravenloft. Those games are probably better suited to what you're looking for. But if you're looking for that grand campaign game, if you're looking to really invest in a system, this is great, because you're going to get a ton of replayability just in the core set, and then with all of those cards coming out, the card back expansions that come out, you can really, really take this and run with it. If you're looking for a game that you can really devote yourself to, this is a great one. This is a great one. So if you're looking for that casual game, try it before you buy it. If you're looking for a grand campaign game, you're going to want to buy this one. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment here on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. We are The Discriminating Gamer. And do you know how much a pirate charges for ear piercings? A buccaneer! Buccaneer.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
Don't listen to these guys. They are nutballs. I'm not kidding you. These guys, I think, some kind of screwy.